The media is reporting that the special counsel investigating Joe Biden for mishandling classified documents is not likely to bring charges against the president. And so Donald Trump, Republican politicians, and conservative commentators are furious. So we're going to bask in their misery and debunk their stupidity using, when applicable, the words of Fox News commentators and Trump's own attorney general. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, folks, I've got several clips to play, but here is the news. So the Republican special counsel, and I say Republican, Robert Hur, the special counsel investigating President Biden, he's not likely to bring charges against the president for mishandling classified documents. This is being reported by CNN and the Wall Street Journal, and the rest of the media seems to be corroborating it. So Special Counsel Robert Hur is not expected to charge anyone in connection to the mishandling of classified documents at two locations connected to President Joe Biden, two sources close to the investigation told CNN. Hur and his team are compiling a detailed report on their year-long probe that's expected to be critical of Biden and his staff for the way they handled sensitive materials. The report is expected to go into significant detail about what the special counsel's office found in its investigation. Investigators on Hur's team have told other Justice Department officials that they hope to have the report completed by the end of the year, but that timeline could slide. Now listen, this has not been explicitly confirmed, but this does seem to be a credible story. Now, Donald Trump was apoplectic. He unleashed an all-caps rant on Truth Central. Wow, fake news CNN, through a leak from the Department of Injustice, has just reported that no charges will be filed in the much bigger than mine crooked Joe Biden documents case. We're living in a very corrupt country. Now, let's see. I just want to remind everybody before I play some of these clips, okay? So President Biden is the sitting president of the United States, and his Department of Justice is investigating him and his son, Hunter Biden. There have been two special counsels appointed by Biden's own Justice Department investigating Biden's. There are more Bidens under investigation than Trump's. So that really undermines the narrative coming from Republicans that the Department of Justice has been weaponized against conservatives and the Donald Trump and the Trump campaign, et cetera, and so forth. As a matter of fact, Robert Hur, the man leading this investigation, has been a lifelong Republican prosecutor. So Joe Biden's own attorney general appointed a Republican to investigate the Democratic president. That's pretty thorough. That's pretty generous. No Republican has ever done anything like that. Donald Trump would never allow the appointment of a Democrat under his administration to investigate him. So the asymmetry is just extraordinary. Now, as a reminder, there are meaningful differences between the Trump classified documents case and the Biden classified documents case. There was also the Mike Pence classified documents case. People tend to forget about that. There were no charges brought against Mike Pence. And the reason is because Mike Pence and Joe Biden cooperated with the Department of Justice and the relevant authorities, unlike Trump, who narcissistically said that he was above the law, that he didn't owe the National Archives and the Justice Department the respect of surrendering these government documents back to them when they asked. That's the meaningful difference. We also have audio footage, audio recordings of Trump openly admitting that he had highly confidential, sensitive documents, many of which he did not declassify when he was president, and he was showing them off to people who were not authorized to see them.
Isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Mm-hmm. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack. She sent it to. Isn't that incredible? Thinking about it, and you're wrong.
It's pretty wow.
I think
trying to
declassify.
figure out yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified
yeah.
it. Now I can't, you know. But this is
classified. Now we have a problem.
So there you go. He says it's highly secret, highly confidential, it's highly classified. As president, he could have declassified it, but chose not to. So the fact of the matter is, classified or declassified, Donald Trump was not entitled to have these documents, especially when he was the former president. But Republicans and conservative commentators, they're furious. Marsha Blackburn, a Republican senator from Tennessee, says, Joe Biden stored classified documents in his garage and nothing will happen. For President Trump, the FBI raided his home and prosecutors issued federal charges against him. Well, yeah, because there are meaningful differences between the two cases. Simply because Donald Trump did something really bad and suffered the consequences for it doesn't mean that we're obligated to do the same thing to Joe Biden unless Joe Biden did something similar, which he didn't. You also have the RNC research page. Reminder, Biden admitted to illegally hiding classified documents since at least 1974. But to the surprise of it, absolutely no one, he won't be charged. 2 tiers of justice. We'll address that in a minute. Megyn Kelly, a conservative commentator, says, shocked. Special counsel investigating Joe Biden's handling of classified material is not expected to bring charges. Now, what's funny about Megyn Kelly is she interviewed Donald Trump recently, and this topic came up, and Megyn Kelly actually offered a pretty sophisticated understanding of the situation. So I'm surprised she's being so sarcastic here, because she is well aware of the fundamental differences between Trump's case and Biden's. So I'm going to play a couple of clips from that interview.
We have a deranged guy named Jack Smith who's been overturned at the Supreme Court a number of times, and he gets overturned. You know why he gets overturned? Because he goes too far. They don't even mention the Presidential Records Act. This is all about the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to have these documents. I'm allowed to take these documents, classified or not classified. And frankly, when I have them, they become unclassified. People think you have to go through a ritual. You don't.
You heard the audio footage. Donald Trump is lying here. He is aware that there is a ritual. Of course there's a ritual. Even if, as the sitting president, he can declassify whatever he wants, which is effectively the case. He's the ultimate declassification authority as president. There still is a process, because the rest of the government has to be made aware that those documents were classified, because if they're ever discovered and the FBI doesn't know they were declassified, how can they enforce classification? Of course, any sitting president, Democrat or Republican, has to follow the procedure to let all the relevant authorities, the FBI, the National Archives, the CIA, make them aware, hey, I have declassified these documents. Of course that's the case. And you also heard it in the audio. So he says that now, but he says in the audio, when he's showing the documents off to other people, that I could have declassified these, but I didn't. So he is well aware of the fact that simply by having possession of these documents, they're not automatically declassified. But here's Bill Barr, Trump's own attorney general, just debunking the whole situation.
This entire thing came about because of reckless conduct of the president. If he had just turned over the documents, which I think every other person in the country would have done, they're the government's documents. They're official records. They're not his personal records. Battle plans for an attack on another country or Defense Department documents about our capabilities are in no universe Donald J. Trump's personal documents. They are the government's documents.
Period. The Presidential Records Act that Trump doesn't understand and lies about, that refers to like journal entries, diaries. There's a case to be made that if he writes in a journal, which he's illiterate, so he probably is incapable of that. But let's say he was literate and did write these things out in crayon, then yes, he could make a credible case that those things belong to him. Bill Clinton made that case with copies of interviews conducted during his presidency. Those things are under the purview of the Presidential Records Act. But that's not what he's being indicted for. Donald Trump was being indicted for 37 counts of the willful retention of classified documents and sensitive national security information, okay? Those things are not his personal property. Those are not interviews. Those are not journal entries. Those are U.S. government documents. And the president of the United States may be the head of government, but he's not the government. And Donald Trump is not the president. So he is subject to laws just like everybody else. And I know MAGA supporters struggle with this, but nobody cares about your feelings, folks. If you're watching this and you're a MAGA supporter and you think, well, Trump gets to be above the law, nobody cares. And I love the fact that you're being ruthlessly confronted with this. He's just a U.S. citizen now. Yes, he's very powerful. He may yet be the president again, but he's not entitled to do whatever he wants. When the National Archives says, give us the documents back, Donald Trump is obligated to turn them over. And when he doesn't, he runs into these issues. So what's interesting about that is, again, even Megyn Kelly in that interview is aware of that. Listen to how she gives pushback.
But
so
listen,
I get all that.
The New York Times.
I get all that. But the obstruction case isn't about that. The obstruction case says, so even if you had the right to the documents, once you get the subpoena, you got to fork them over. The subpoena said, give us anything with a classified marking. Go ahead.
Because I come under it. I don't want to sound boring to all of your many people. I hope you have a lot of people. You will. But you know what? They create a fake crime. Okay, next.
Well, that was my question, that, even if I think they're accusing me of a fake crime, if I get a subpoena, I have to comply. I used to practice law for 10 years. You got to comply. You got to fork over the documents.
And he didn't. The National Archives and the FBI bent over backwards to accommodate Donald Trump for about a year. They tried to work with him quietly behind the scenes to get the documents back and to not make a fuss. And he repeatedly lied to the National Archives, to the FBI, and that alone is why he's being indicted. And the reason we know that isn't just the opinion of legal scholars, but Donald Trump actually isn't being indicted for the hundreds of documents that he had in his possession. See, when he turned some of them over, when they asked, the Justice Department didn't indict him for them. When they asked, and he gave some back, those documents, he was basically given a pass on those. So if he just turned the damn documents over, he wouldn't be in this situation. Biden and Mike Pence did turn the documents over. That's why the case is different. We're going to conclude with this clip from Fox News, of all places, in the aftermath of this announcement that Biden would not be prosecuted. This is from Outnumbered, so it's a Biden bashing spree, but they tee it up. They ask Ari Fleischer, a legal analyst on Fox News, they basically tee it up like, come on, isn't this a double standard? And hear his response.
You're welcome. So, Ari, let's start with this. There's been accusations of, a double standard. You look at this investigation into Donald Trump and his handling of classified documents, and then with Joe Biden. Is there a double standard, or is there just a different set of facts?
Yeah, look, I think there's a huge amount of evidence about the weaponization about the federal government to get Donald Trump. But I'm sorry to say, when it comes to Donald Trump's handling of the classified documents, I don't see a double standard. Donald Trump went too far because he never gave the documents back.
It's that simple, folks. Meaningful differences justify meaningfully different outcomes. And that's what we have here. We have no evidence that Joe Biden did anything remotely comparable to the terrible things that Donald Trump did with respect to obstruction and all of that. So it's a situation. What Republicans want is they want you to ignore the facts and say, listen, we have to go on an outcome-by-outcome basis. If you, for whatever reason, prosecute, indict, convict a Republican or just somebody we as Republicans like, then you're obligated to do the same to somebody on the left that we dislike. Well, no, they're not. Not unless the facts are very similar, if not identical. That's not the case here. So that's why Joe Biden doesn't deserve to be indicted and why Donald Trump does. And those are the facts. And to quote Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings, gang. So let me know what you think in the comments.